Hello, my name is Mage and welcome to Black and White Thinking. And we are off. Here we go into season 4 of Harley Quinn. I've been covering this show for literally years now, and how did we get here? HBO decided to release 3 episodes of the show overnight, and so my weekend plan of making one video discussing one episode went straight out the window, and here I am making 3 separate reviews, if you can call them that, in one bigger video. I am tired, HBO, please give a girl a heads up. This video is super late because of that, and also because, well, I wrote 5,000 words, and I had a busy weekend, and life happens. So yeah, I'm sorry about that. The next episode, as long as only one is released, should be up far quicker. I have thoughts. I want to hear your thoughts, so let's get into it. I'll give a little brief recap of the episode, and then I will tell you what I enjoyed or didn't about what I saw, point out any little Easter eggs and stuff I might have picked up on throughout. And then I'm going to give an overall view at the end of this video and run through what I really thought of specifics. That's going to be a bit more ranty. Please tune in for that. That will be the bulk of it. It will be a more deep dive, end note kind of thing. And that's the format I'm going to try and follow for most of the season, but who knows. Let's just talk about some bisexual lady villains, or not villains. Anyway, this is going to be a long one. Grab a snack and a drink. Enjoy. Housekeeping, please follow me on all of my things. Join the Discord, like this video, subscribe to the channel, check out my Patreon, YouTuber things. Thanks for your support as always. Moving on swiftly. Episode 1's brief recap. We pick up with Harley and Ivy starting their new jobs. Ivy as CEO of the Legion of Doom, and Harley as a member of the Bat family, whilst Bruce is in prison. Both jump into their new jobs headfirst, and the plot for the first episode basically follows them trying to settle in. Ivy faces sexism at work, as all the male villains look down on her, and none of them want to do anything that she says. She wants to do collective work that she labels socially conscious evil, and they all want to be incels and weirdos. And quite literally, that's not an opinion, they are very much portrayed that way. The episode follows Ivy trying to fight back against this awful work shit, hiring Nora Freeze as her assistant and eventually becoming a boss-ass bitch, beating up the male villains until they submit. It's pretty sexy. Harley's plot follows her attempt to join the Bat family and be totally normal about it. And she does pretty well for a while. There is a murderer going around mutilating hot people, and Harley figures out that it is Professor Pig, surprise, and she saves Nightwing's butt in the process. But the episode ends with her messing it all up by killing Professor Pig, violently, with a bat, much to the horrified looks of the Bat Kids. Outside of Harley and Ivy, we see Alfred trying to hang with Bruce in prison, taking Damien with him to see his dad, and getting sad when he sees that Bruce has an in-prison butler. And a fairly big ending to episode 1 is the appearance of Talia al Ghul, mother, legend, total babe, showing up in the final moments. Okay, so that's the brief recap of episode 1. Let's break it down a little bit. We had a strong opening with the scene that we saw at the start of the trailer, Harley and Ivy being supportive of each other's stupid endeavours. And yes, I said stupid. I think I am definitely in the camp of Harley Bat and Ivy CEO being dumb, but more on that later. Ivy's little ploy to be a sexy criminal and have Harley alerted via bat signal to scheme just to swap lunches was sweet, adorable. I was a fan. Ivy trying to suck up and be cool with Lex is not the character development that I think the writers think it is. It makes her look morally flexible, and that's being kind. And yeah, I don't love it, but her mug and her organised tabbed colour-coded binder were cute. The sexist villains kind of reinforce my point here that Ivy is selling herself short and eventually, potentially, selling out by working for the Legion of Doom, even as the head plant in charge. Again, I think the writers probably see this as development, but I don't feel that way at all. Ivy was always against the patronising and sexist nature of the LOD, and suddenly she's all for it because she's in charge now? The same Ivy we saw go toe-to-toe with Lex in season 1 over this exact bullshit, who specifically tried to talk Harley out of joining the men's club because she was better than that? Sure, okay, I guess. Too many feelings on that one to be coherent about it right now. We are gonna talk about it in serious depth at the end. I will say though that Ivy's feminism is all over the place in these episodes. And it's not just Ivy specifically, the show's portrayal of women, and more importantly, women survivors and or victims, is a total mess. Side note, I enjoyed seeing Man-Bat. Man-Bat is adorable, love me some Man-Bat. Even though the use of background villains in this show is wildly inconsistent, I always enjoy seeing this funky little dude. Dumb reference 1, the magazines were funny. Reaper's Digest and Wonder Woman's Sites, Shops and Sapphics were personal faves. Dumb reference 2, Harley murdered Andy Samberg? I like Andy Samberg. Alfred being jealous of Bruce's new butler is also adorable. Alfred is adorable, and him taking Damien to try and see his dad is like double adorable. I've always been a big fan of Alfred, and I was a big fan of Alfred in this episode. In all of these episodes, actually. I liked this scene with Harley trying to sex-vestigate Ivy. It was silly and very Harley, and Ivy was upfront about how it made her feel. They were cute, and there were boundaries set when Ivy felt that Harley was going to a place she didn't want her to. Couple of notes. This line about who is disrespecting you, I will kill them, was probably my favourite of the first 3 episodes. Dumb reference 3 I picked up on, is that Red Hood in Harley's phone? Where is my boy Jason? Where is he? I want him. Dumb reference 4 and 5, Martian Manhunter and Grimes. Wow, Musk and his awful life really are the hot topic of this season, right? Proper in the zeitgeist. Anyway, fuck that dude and anyone who associates with his transphobic and racist arse. Same with the Cheetah and Kanye joke. Same sentiment. Anyway, loved seeing the absolute mess that is Nora Freeze. I love that she has come back as an absolute wreck and is living her worst best life. Also liked seeing Bane, really wishing he was more accepted into the field, more accepted into the group perhaps, but I'm glad to see him regardless. The Argento reference was funny and mildly triggering as someone who went to film school, but it felt very Harley. Talia showing up at the end was super exciting. I did not expect to see her this season, and I wasn't expecting it to go there. We love a deadbeat mum. Jokes aside, I really hadn't expected to see her this season. I try to avoid spoilers with this show, which is not very me generally, just so that I can review them honestly and clearly. I will discuss her appearance a bit more as she pops up in the second episode, but I'm generally excited to see shit go down, and I hope they don't fuck this up. So yeah, I mostly enjoyed this episode. It felt like a starter, part 1 with the second episode, to kind of throw us into the season. Like I said, we're going to reflect more heavily at the end of this video about how I felt overall, and where I think this episode sits in rankings compared to the other 2. This release has made it harder to see each episode singularly because I made a mistake of watching them in quick succession. Like, I want to talk about the 2 top storylines and how I feel about them. The one revolving around Ivy and her new job as the CEO of Flawed, the other Harley and her new job as Batfam member. However, and again, now I'm just repeating myself, I do that a lot on this channel, I'm sorry. I'm going to save that for the end of this whole video, because the arc very much hits across all 3 episodes, and I think it'll be easier to talk about everything we got from those episodes together. So I'm going to hold off on that for now and move on to episode 2. Episode 2, brief recap. Harley is facing the consequences of breaking the tedious no-kill rule placed upon the Bat-Kids by their overlord, and because of this she is basically sent back to training. This leads her to hanging out with Alfred for an episode as he has a breakdown. He misses Bruce, so he commits a bank robbery in the hopes of being sent to prison and being reunited with his Bat-son. And Harley's attempt to thwart his plans and her betrayal of her very cute, in my opinion, friendship with Alfred in this episode is exactly the kind of shady moral behaviour that earns the Bat-Kids respect, and they welcome her back into the fold. Ivy in this episode, having brought the men of the LOD into check in the last, puts them to work, planting female trees across Gotham with the permission of Mayor Joker. There is this whole idea that if she plants female trees, the citizens of Gotham will have less allergies and more fruit, and therefore not only will Ivy be doing some eco-warrior shit, planting trees and feeding the people, she will be able to bring down Big Wayne Farmer in the process. Such bad guy, many evil. She also joins a ladies' luncheon for boss evil bitches where she strikes up a brief friendship with Talia our ghul, before inevitably realising that Talia is in fact in charge at the moment of Wayne Enterprises, whilst Bruce is in jail, and therefore is actually the enemy or something. This episode also introduces Talia properly. We see her neglect of Damien, and we see her back and forth with Alfred. We also see that Shark's platonic wife is pregnant. Nora begins to manipulate Big Dumb Bane into doing her bidding, and the cracks in Harley and Ivy's work relationship balance start to appear. Now, there were a few more things I enjoyed in this episode. Firstly, Harley and Alfred's little friendship montage was great. I could watch an entire show that was just Harley and Alfred on dumb adventures. Kind of sucks that the whole thing was just over so quickly and involved Alfred using Harley essentially and Harley betraying Alfred in the end, but I expect nothing less at this point. It was fun whilst we had it. This season seemed pretty big on parallels. Last episode with Harley and Ivy's first days of work, and the montage of them both beating up their prospective enemies, the Lord and Professor Pig. And then this episode heavily focused on parallel and juxtaposing the two as they attempted to find a friend at work and fail miserably at that endeavour when they realised their new buddy was not on the same page as them. Obviously I'm talking about Ivy and Talia here, and I liked their content, even though it ended not much differently than Harley and Alfred's friendship. I definitely thought the weird comments on feminism were... how do I put this? They were glaring. Fourth wave feminists can be so judgmental of those feminists that came before us. I say this as a judgy fourth wave feminist. To a point, it's totally true. There was a lot of iffy in the third wave. There was a lot of homophobia and racism. But there was also a lot of good people. LGBT women, women of colour, poor women, crazy women, fighting the good fight too. It is not as simple as, I thought we moved past this post-Hillary. And that comment in itself felt as regressive as what the show was commenting on. I would consider myself personally an intersectional feminist, and not an imperialist Hillary stan by any measure. But for a show that just had cut up naked and mutilated women in the last episode, to be calling the phrase the glass ceiling regressive felt ironic and patronising. And like, Ivy can't be against the girl boss generation, bitching about the third wave, while also working as CEO for a megacorporation run by a billionaire that does nothing but placate the worst kind of men and lets them do the worst kind of shit. It just makes Ivy seem like a hypocrite, and not like the Ivy I know and love. Ivy is a goddess. She does not need to reduce herself to this modern discourse, and the writers are very much living vicariously through her in this regard. Them missing the irony of making her work for a loser billionaire and then calling the luncheon regressive just comes off as ill-informed and oh so millennial. And I'm allowed to say that as a millennial fourth wave idiot myself. Just because third wave feminism wasn't perfect does not erase the importance of what many activists were doing in the 1970s. The third wave may have had loud, white, middle-class voices and transphobic radfems, but that wasn't all there was to it, and I'll be damned if I am lectured about that by war criminals Talia al Ghul and Ivy, who again works for fucking Lex Zuckerberg over here. Ivy who, and I blame the writers again for this rather than the character, spent a large part of this episode hanging out with the Joker, like he isn't Harley's literal abuser. The Joker redemption arc that this show has undertaken will truly never sit well with me, and as each season goes by, my feelings on that get stronger. Sorry for the rant, but it really stood out to me as dumb, and I just needed to comment on it. Anyway, I did actually really enjoy this episode, even if I'm bitching about it. Welcome to Black and White Thinking, that's what we do here. Main takeaways were, Harley is a shit superhero and Ivy is a shit supervillain, and together they are my favourite idiots who don't know what the fuck they are doing. Talia is an evil dish, and I really like her design actually. Harley in her little beanie was adorable, and I enjoyed that design too. The animation feels a little clunky in places this season, but I don't know if I'm just spoiled with other shows, and therefore I'm being hypercritical. So please let me know what you think about the animation below. Episode 3 brief recap. In an attempt to connect, due to being distracted by their new jobs, Harley and Ivy go to Vegas. For fun, to spend some time together, but to also attempt to see Clayface's new show which they are holding in the city. Shark is there too, as well as a myriad of other villains. Tabitha goes into labour this episode after another quirky Shark song moment from the show. Harley tries to let loose, feeling bad that she is Bat-focused and now unable to do bad guy things apparently. Ivy tries to constantly bag Clay tickets, which she could have gotten weeks ago if she had been a better friend, in order to give her and Harley something to bond over, Clay being an embarrassing fuck. Clay does everything to avoid giving Harley and Ivy the tickets, and so Ivy and Clay end up fighting, and after giving in to a naughty alter ego, Harley goes good again and breaks up the supervillain fight. Harley and Ivy find something to bond over in Shark's ugly babies, and Harley drops a bomb at the end of the episode. She is moving in with a bunch of cosplaying children who live in a cave, because she is struggling to focus on her job whilst living with a villain. Boy do I have some thoughts on those final moments. we will definitely be getting into it. So, episode 3 was generally a bit clunky. It was chaotic, and there were definitely some character moments that stood out to me, good and bad. The first 2 episodes felt like an opening to the season, and this episode felt like the first moving us into the bulk of it. The episode opens with Harley and Ivy trying to match their schedules so they can spend some time together, and we get the hook of the episode, them deciding to go to Vegas together. And I liked this scene. It was mature and domestic and cute. I also enjoyed some more background villain chaos in this episode. I enjoyed seeing them all do stupid things as Harley and Ivy did their relationship in the forefront. I really liked this version of Ragdoll, actually. I don't know, I think this design's really cool. And the fight pit was a fun inclusion, as was the Starro the Conqueror Sarlacc pit and the tiny baby Starros. I enjoyed Harley's Hargret costume. I think this design is actually really cute, and Harley with a bob weirdly works. Ivy deserves some roleplay fun after the blue balls of the first episode. It's always nice to see Harleen too, but I do think she was misused in this episode. Her use can feel a bit gimmicky sometimes, but whatever. I do like seeing her, and I like seeing the physical manifestation of Harley's trauma still exists in the mind of the writers. The Snowflame heist was fun as well. It was a nice nostalgic moment of the 2 of them doing a dumb thing together for a totally dumb reason. Working together like this is them at their best in a lot of ways. The bellboy sex was probably my favourite scene. These nasty ladies having sex in an elevator is peak Harley behaviour. They are gross, and I love them. And there were a lot of aesthetically pleasing couple moments in this episode that I enjoyed watching, context or not. I am a simple bisexual. The Clay vs Ivy fight, Shark in the background being a dad whole shtick, was not the most exciting thing in the show, but it was nice to see the crew back together. So much in this show has shifted and morphed since the early days of these guys all just hanging out and causing mischief, and I enjoyed seeing them all in one place. And the shark babies are cute. Fuck what Harley and Ivy say. Ugly babies are the best. All babies are kind of ugly, let's be honest. Anyway, let's get into the important shit. That last scene, I have thoughts, and now I'm going to get into them. And just generally into my very specific opinions on Harley as Bat and Ivy as CEO and how I felt overall about this little drop of episodes. So yeah, let's do it. This video is a total mess. I apologise. God, so I hope these next few sections don't sound too gloomy. This show is blood in, blood out for me at this point, and if I'm gonna talk about it, I'm gonna need to be honest about what I do and don't like, and what did or did not work for me. And I have tried, and I do, have an open heart for this season. I am ready to embrace whatever is in front of me, and I am excited to see the rest of it play out, to see what chaos will ensue, and see what growth may or may not occur. That being said, I do not really enjoy Harley and Ivy's new roles. More specifically, I wouldn't write them having these jobs if my job was to write them, which isn't. Hire me, DC. Let me fill your woke quota. But seriously, I am someone that has read and consumed a lot of Harley and Ivy content over the years, together and separately. And I love this show for a lot of the decisions it has made. But in terms of my personal understanding and interpretation of Harley and Ivy as characters, this is not for me in a lot of ways. I'm not going anywhere, but I don't love it. I don't see it as character progression, or at least I don't think it is character progression in a way I understand or really want to see in 2 of my favourite characters, and I don't ultimately think it will be any good for their relationship. My biggest thing with Ivy is her loose moral compass when it comes to working for Lex and the Legion of Doom. This isn't 1974, and Ivy is not the only girl in the society of supervillains anymore. Her character has far progressed beyond that, in almost all canon, and the idea that she would sacrifice any part of her soul to work for Lex Luthor seems foreign to me now. Her feminism and her activist roots, ones that were made very clear in the earlier seasons of this show, and that exist in her character as a whole, are very much being thrown aside in order to make this all work. It feels like they don't know what to do with her. Or maybe they are only allowed to take her character in a particular villain-orientated way. If you have been around on this channel long enough, you will know my perhaps mildly conspiratorial views on why DC must keep Ivy as a villain. But yeah, the Ivy we love, even if we just take the version of her that exists in this show at face value, should not be so comfortable in this place. She should not be willing to work for a major corporation that is planning on conquering the galaxy and destroying the Earth in the process, just so she can plant more trees in the interim. She should not be willing to put up with Lex's shit after what he did to Harley. And she should definitely not be willing to play nice with Joker so he will sign off on some permits, again, after what he did to Harley. And I am hoping this is where Ivy's personal arc lies this season. I think it should have happened like a season ago, but I'm ready for Ivy to realise that she doesn't need any of the money or approval that she wants from these other villains, and that her attempt to save and conserve nature is a valiant pursuit, but not one that aligns with the Legion of Doom. And where Harley is concerned, Lord above help me, where do I even start? I talked about this last season, but I definitely have some rejuvenated thoughts for this season in regards to Harley working with the Bat family. So, I'm a big Batman, Gotham City Sirens truther. I like Bruce's relationships, friendly or sometimes even romantically, with all three of the Gotham City Sirens, but I do not like Harley Quinn as a superhero. In fact, I've kind of grown to detest it, mostly because I do not believe Harley to be cut from the same patronising moral cloth that DC superheroes are in fact cut from. I think that Harley being friends with the superheroes can be done when done properly. She is not a villain, neither is Ivy, but she is not a hero either. A good example of Harley having a fun relationship with heroes, or one hero specifically, is the relationship that Harley and Babs have in DC Superhero Girls. My best show ever, I love you, Lauren Faust. DC Superhero Girls, side note, has some goddamn amazing character choices, and I love that show. I miss it terribly. My biggest issue with Harley as hero, well, my two biggest issues, is one that I believe that it is rooted in capitalism, not character, for a start. They want to sell Harley to a new age generation that will not simply take her as a battered wife. And instead of making an effort to be interesting and adapting Harley post-Joker in an organic way, DC are just like, make her a hero now, then maybe everyone will forget we tortured her for 3 decades. Also, Margot Robbie made her cool or something. And that is not a dig at Margot, but you know, DC and Warner Brothers and capitalism. But my main issue, and I think the first 3 episodes of this season were a great example of this, my main issue with Harley as a hero or a member of the Bat family is that it is rooted in infantilization. It is part of DC's obsessive nature of treating Harley like a goddamn child. Like a manic pixie dream girl who is incapable of making her own decisions and must be pushed in one specific direction that she will follow. And like, that's fine in the beginning of Harley's overall arc, when she is with Joker, and she is very mentally ill, cough, BBD, cough. And she does make her decisions based on what others want of her. But when she is in a place of growth, I do not think switching out Joker's rules for Batman rules is actually her addressing her problems. And I do not believe she means it for one fucking second. I believe Harley is good. In her soul and in her heart, she is good. But that does not mean she will ever fit the specific criteria of a superhero in the DC universe. And her being her own agent of chaos, pure of heart and dumb of mind, is what makes her so special to begin with. The quick switch between Harley murdering arseholes for fun and fucking over the whole city, even as recently as the Valentine's episode, to Harley now being like, I must not enjoy myself because what if the Bat Kids are watching, is weird, in my opinion. And I think it's patronising that she is being told how to behave by people that are basically children. They are children in Damien's case, and not much older in the case of Babs and Dick. That is, like I said, infantilizing. I mean, Harley's whole run with Professor Pig felt like a great indicator of her skill, but also a great indicator of how her specific skills will not be fit for Bat family consumption. Harley does not have to be an all-violent evil or an all-powerful good. That is, ironically, an incredibly black and white way to think about a character. I want to see Harley be a grown adult, making her own decisions, and being pressured by Babs to live in the Batcave is not that, no matter how the writers want to play it. It doesn't feel like a mature decision to me. It feels like a cop-out to get her in a batsuit as soon as possible, and I do think it threatens the integrity of Harley and Ivy's relationship, even without the hero and villain of it all. I don't think it's grown up to bail on a relationship for a career you don't even know if you care about. I don't think necessarily it's fair to Ivy to dump her at Catwoman's place while Harley goes off and lives with teenagers after Ivy essentially blew up her entire life to be with Harley. I do not see this how the writers see it. And whilst I am glad that Harley and Ivy are trying to be mature and considerate of each other's feelings, and that Ivy is supporting Harley through whatever the fuck this is, it does not feel like a natural progression. It does not feel like something necessary. It feels forced and a little stifled. Again and again and again, I am glad that they are far more emotionally responsible with each other in this season so far. That matters to me. And I am glad they are on the same emotional side, even if they aren't on the same physical side. But I do not love the context. I am begging this show to just give me a little bit of a honeymoon period, where Harley and Ivy get to find out who they are, individually but together, and don't have to constantly see their storylines being messed up by an internal need for either of them to impress men. It's not why I fell in love with this show in the first place, but it is definitely what I see happening right now. Okay, that was quite the rant, and I don't want anyone to think that I'm just being a dick for dick's sake. I am super invested in this dumb little show, and I would follow Harley and Ivy into hell, and I love having the opportunity to see them be together. It's soothing to my soul, but there are definitely some red flags in the first few episodes that I really hope wash out over the season. I hope these opinions resonate with you, or at least start a conversation in the comments. I am not beefing with my faves, I promise, and I will be here all season telling you how this shit made me feel, good, bad, or ugly, and I hope you tell me the same. A quick reminder to join the Discord if you ever want to go in depth about this with myself and other Harley nerds. I have a whole channel set up for season 4 and spoilers, so go crazy. I enjoyed these episodes, but they were not my favourites, which I'm hoping evens out over the rest of the season. Anyway, I am tired. This video was way too long. My name is Mage. This was Black and White Thinking. I love Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy. Catch you in the next one. Thanks for being here.